Okay, so we're recording. So thanks, Jake and Kim, for covering for us. Lane and Alan had to miss, but we are fine and amazing and independent people, and we are just proceeding without them. Really appreciate having you all here. So I'm going to go ahead and share my screen and get us started. Okay, so we're going to have a time for people to chat. And what I'll do, the way I ran this last time, that I'll do again is I'll teach a little, and then I'll stop sharing the screen and I'll open it up and I'll just ask you to unmute. It's a small enough group still that we all had good manners. And if you, I'll say, what do you all think? And, just show consideration for each other. I'll also say, I'll take 2 answers for that. Like I'll facilitate that so I keep things moving along. So let me show you the agenda for today. First of all, I'm Catherine Brown. I know most of you, but if we haven't met, I'm so glad that you're here. Thank you for coming. This is the second of 4 sessions on selling through LinkedIn. And one of the things we have to do to sell well is we can't use LinkedIn well if our profile doesn't make sense. So we start out by updating our profile. And one of the themes we talked about last time is this idea of in sales, which we are all, even if our role is not sales manager, account manager, we're all using LinkedIn as basically an alternative to our website. What happens is there's a lot of data research, and I showed this in my presentation last time, that a lot of recent marketing publications are sharing that LinkedIn for business to business sales, LinkedIn is just barely second only to a company's website as the place that people are going to learn about you and to learn about your company's services. So even if you're an accountant for the company, in a way, you're a company representative. And so your about section needs to be about how your company helps. And so we're going to show you some examples of that today. The whole principle about how you have good copy on LinkedIn, good words on LinkedIn, is making sure that you talk about the people that you serve, whether you're an employee of a company or it's your own business and you're an entrepreneur. Who are you serving before you talk about your own credentials, especially in the top half of the profile? So I like to talk in sales in general about this philosophy, them before me, them before me. When I lead a sales call, can I get my prospect to do most of the talking? When I am writing a LinkedIn post, I'm going to show you a bunch of examples of my LinkedIn posts today. You're going to see that the subject of this sentence does not start with me, just hardly ever. It's usually about the person and the audience I'm writing to. That's on purpose. I'm following this formula of them before me, because I want someone to identify with what I'm saying and self-select in. So I'll show you some more examples of that in a minute. So last week we reviewed that there are these 3 things you need to look at with your LinkedIn profile. And again, if you jumped in just now, welcome, glad you're here. If you missed last week and you did not register for it, then you did not receive the recording. And if you would like to catch up, I have a short version of a webinar that's 25 minutes that will cover the headline, the about section, and what good pictures look like. And I can share that with you. So I have my email in the chat. Please go ahead and message me if you would like me to send you that webinar later. So very quick review. With LinkedIn, there's this section that we call above the fold. We're using the idea of an old-fashioned newspaper that is a printed paper, and the most important articles are on the top half and the less important stuff is on the bottom half. And similarly, our headline, our about section, and our banner with really great pictures is what people are skimming to decide if they're going to read the bottom half. So what we don't want to do is say the same thing twice. We don't want to make the top with the words we use and our about section to be a summary of the resume that's down below, because your LinkedIn profile is much more than just your resume. So what you all did is, many of you, I heard from about 50% of you. I mean, it was really awesome turnout. So about 50% of you said, hey, I did the work. I did an update. Would you let me know? And I picked 3 of you to do live editing, where I'm going to invite you to help me help them make it even better according to the principles we talked about last time. So let me show you this agenda. We're going to talk briefly. Bill offered, as a professional photographer, he's given us a handout cheat sheet, which I also am going to have as a PDF to share with you afterwards. This will come in the email from Alan and Lane, but he's got tips for taking great pictures. So Bill's going to walk us through that. Then we're going to do 3 live reviews of profiles I've picked of people. I literally picked the first 3 people who asked if I would review their profile. And I have to tell you all, this is not a conspiracy, but they happen to all be Texans. Okay, I didn't I did not know I was doing that until I looked at the name. I was like, oh my gosh, there's not even that many Texans in the group, but the Texans were on it, people, like on the timestamp. They asked first. So I literally went with the order of who asked first. So we're going to look at the Texans profiles, and then with our remaining time, I'm going to start to introduce this idea of how you think about your professional brand. How do I want to show up and be perceived in LinkedIn? I'm going to give you real life examples of what I think about when I do my posts. Bill, would you unmute and walk us through? I know we can read this. They're going to get this handout, but would you supplement this and walk us through? And thank you for offering to help us make our pictures better.
Sure, no problem. So as a professional photographer, it's important to stress to people that your headshot is important and what you put in your background matters. So what I like to tell people when they're taking a picture is, first of all, have somebody else take the picture for you. Doing selfies, like you can never, it's awkward and you don't get the right angle. I mean, I know people do that for, Instagram, but this is think about the end purpose of what the photograph is. It's a professional photograph that people want to recognize who it is that they're speaking to. So the first thing that you need to do is avoid distracting backgrounds. So things that are crazy. I mean, I have a piece of white seamless behind me. Obviously, you don't have to go out and buy a piece of white seamless, but if you have a white wall that's not too scuffed up, or you throw just a coat of paint onto it real quick. Second thing is you want to take the camera and you want to move it closer to the subject. I notice a lot of pictures where there's a lot of body and things in the background. But when you dumb that down to social media, like your Facebook or LinkedIn, the picture is tiny. So you really just have room for head and shoulders, right? So you want, bust line and up. You don't really want to show too much more than that. The third thing is you want to separate yourself from the background. So if you're standing next to a wall and somebody has light on you, there's a shadow behind you. So when you take a couple of feet away from the background, then the shadow falls off and away from the background, and then it gives it a clean separation. The next thing you want to do is avoid facing the camera the way that I'm facing it right now. When you do a headshot, you want to turn your body slightly and then turn your head this way, or turn it this way and the other way. The reason why you do that is when you crop the photograph into a dimension, you get your shoulders cut off like a football. Remember those, high school yearbooks where the football players all had their shoulders cut off? It looks weird and it's a disconnect. You don't know why it's weird, but it's weird. So just simply by turning your body slightly and, making sure that your posture is good when you're looking into the camera, you'll take a much better photograph. The other thing I stress is lighting. Now, most people have no clue how to understand lighting, and I'm not going to go into it too heavily, other than to say that portrait photography likes front lighting. So if you notice, I have a really nice light shining on me. This is a professional light. It's a softbox. It's got a thing on it which makes the light beautiful. You can simulate this very easily with daylight. Daylight is the best, especially if you're using cell phones. So what you want to do is not use the light that's harsh light. You want to diffuse it slightly. So if you have like a white curtain or a sheer, anything that's see-through, you can put up in your window. It makes the light nice and soft versus like a hard thing where it shows every pore in your face. If you don't have access to daylight and you just have like indoor lighting, do not use overhead lighting. What it does is it gives you raccoon eyes and nobody can see your eyes. The whole purpose of a portrait is people want to see what you look like. So if nobody can see your eyes, so if this is lit and this is lit and this is lit, but your eye sockets and your nose and your mouth are not lit, you're going to have a problem trying to convey that. And oftentimes, if you're not using daylight, what happens is the camera throws a color cast into it, like an orange or sometimes a green, depending upon the light you're using, because light has different temperatures. So try to use natural light when possible. If you can't use natural light, try to use a light source. Like even if you went out to drugs, like a hardware store and got one of those clip lights, you know, everyone has one of those clip lights, you know, it's like a thing, you know, and it just, you can take a pillowcase and put that over the clip light, clip it onto, you know, anything that's above you, and just take a photograph that way. And that's pretty much it. You know, other than that, like most people are flattering face wise when you're slightly above them with the camera. When you look underneath, everyone gets, you know, the turkey neck and the jowls, and the older you get, like the worse it is. And so those are the things that I would recommend to people without trying to like reinvent the wheel, but just have somebody take the photo. And, you know, you don't, when I take pictures of people, I don't know what their best side is. You might know what your good side is. I recommend doing both sides, left and right, just in case, you know, you get something that you hadn't expected. And then, you know, after that, just like experiment. Oh, the last thing I want to talk about is smiling. If you are uncomfortable smiling, don't smile in a picture, okay? You don't need to smile in a photograph to show that you're not mad. You just have to look happy. So I tell people, if you're awkward with teeth smiles, just do this. That's all you have to do. Just put up, you know, turn your frown upside down, basically. And that's all you have to do. If you hate having your picture taken, like most people, it's a painful experience. You got to muddle through it, and it's very easy. It literally takes 10 minutes, but it will really do a lot for you in terms of when you post them to all your social media accounts, everything's consistent, and you want like a consistent front in your branding and marketing. So those are the tips that I would give people.
Bill, I'm going to allow people to ask a couple questions. I'll take a couple people in addition to me. One other thing that about natural light that I've seen is that if you do photos outside, it seems like that last hour before the sun goes down is pretty beautiful. So that's why people like to do their beach pictures for their Christmas cards, things like that at that time. So that's a good time, isn't it?
Yeah, well, so they refer to that as magic hour. It happens twice a day. It happens in the morning when the sun rises, and it happens when the sun sets. The least flattering light you want to take a picture in is noon light, because it's overhead light. Now, having said that, on a cloudy day, when it's diffuse out there, it is a giant softbox. The sun becomes a giant softbox. So don't be discouraged taking a picture outside if the sun's not shining. Actually, it's beneficial if the light is not at the right angle. So again, if you're outside and you want to take a picture during natural, you know, daylight, you find a blank wall or, you know, something, step away from the wall a couple of feet. If it's big enough, have somebody hold the camera, maybe step on a step stool, go up just a tiny bit, or hold the camera above you, get nice and close into the subject. And yes, so those 2 hours are good, but during a hazy day, that's even better to do a portrait, especially if you don't know how to control light.
Cool. Other questions for Bill? Just unmute and ask if you have one.
I guess I was thorough.
You were thorough. Bill, even though you mostly do food, would you do people's headshots here if anybody wants that with you?
Well, I think Jake has a question.
Okay, go ahead.
I do food. I have been shooting portraits for 25 years. I have an entire corporate photography headshot business that is tangential to my food photography. I don't advertise the two together because they're two different disciplines. I have created something called the 15-minute painless portrait for people who hate having their picture taken. I can discuss it at greater length if anyone would like to know about that. Jake, do you have a question?
Yeah, I think one of the things I want to ask you about is this strange trend of arm crossing for business people. It just seems like this really strange thing that I've seen, and it almost looks stock for a lot of people. What is your recommendation about body language or body placement if we're not doing the headshot, but we're doing more of a body shot? What do you recommend?
Okay, so the arm crossing is not new. It's just maybe new to you. I've been doing portraits for years with executives doing this, and it all depends. Like it's an attitude thing versus so to get people who do not want to do the arm cross, what I recommend is that you stand up erect, like your posture is good. So in order to do that, if you take your hands like this, right, and you put them down here, and then you pull down slightly, what happens? Your shoulders automatically tighten. It tightens up your coat. It makes everything kind of in line, and it gives you a really nice thing. And you don't have to worry about what you're doing with your arms, because you're going to cut your arms out below like the navel. So even if you have your arms doing like this, when you crop the photograph, it looks like it's naturally falling straight down. And again, always turn slightly away from the camera, like left, right, but turn your head towards the camera. So like, remember, your head and your shoulders are attached, but they're not fixed to one another. So you can literally turn your body and then turn your head back, and then boom, you have like something dynamic happening where there's a line in your shoulder, and then you're also looking straight into the camera. Again, look straight into the camera. You're trying to make a connection. Just remember, when you're having a one-on-one meeting and your eyeballs are all over the place, people think that you're not interested. So the same thing holds true with a photograph. If you're not making eye contact with your audience, then it looks strange. It looks like it's disengaged. And I notice a lot of people, they're staring off somewhere into their next snack or whatever they're thinking, and then suddenly they're not doing anything other than they're not engaged with the photograph, is basically what I'm trying to say.
Okay, is there anybody else that has a burning question they want to ask? Scrolling, looking, last call. Okay, so use Bill. He has a 15-minute make it easy for you program. Bill, thank you. These handouts will be, these notes will be in a handout too that I'll pass out to you. Thank you for providing those for us. Appreciate you. And we're going to keep going. All right. So let's see if there's anything else. Super. All right, we're going to do live edits. So those of you that came late, I don't know how I did this. Somehow the Texans, we were telepathically connected. We have all Texans. They do represent multiple disciplines. And I think they're also a nice variety of people who are self-employed and employees of corporations, which sometimes people do slightly different things based on what your employer will let you do. So I wanted to mix that up as well. So the first one is Greg Bezzosi. Greg, are you able to be on camera? I saw you come in. Are you able to be on camera and interact with us? It's okay if we can't see you, but can you talk?
Sorry, Catherine, did you say Greg Signorella or?
Greg Bezzosi.
Okay, then it doesn't sound like Signorella at all.
That's okay. Greg Bezzosi, I'm seeing your name, but I'm not hearing your voice. Maybe he's watching, but not able to.
Sorry, I can hear you on the road, Catherine, so I won't be able to put my camera on.
Okay. So I'm going to go ahead and walk you all through what Greg sent. And Greg, you're going to listen, and we're going to have a conversation about it. And then I only have a couple suggestions, so they're going to be easy things for you to catch up with, and we'll have this in the recording that'll be sent to you. Okay?
Perfect.
Okay, great. So Greg is a friend of mine from Houston. He's joined us for this class, and we're really glad you're here. And he was literally the first person who, like, the minute I said it, I had a LinkedIn message pop up and said, I will be ready in 2 days. Please count me. So I thought this was a great example. This is Greg. Greg works for a company called Variable, and they are an on-demand software platform that manages people for manufacturing, logistics, and warehousing. So this is exactly what he sent me up till now. This represents the changes he made based on what we said. So those of you that couldn't be here last time, let me remind you, we're thinking about the banner. What is in the banner? Do I want to have my contact information? Is there an interesting picture? Do I have a call to action? What do I want to do with this very valuable real estate, which for him is this blue banner at the top? So he's describing what the company name, the website in the upper left, and then describing what they do. He also has his name. And if you notice, he chose not to have his job title. It's not wrong to have your job title. Brian Bearden made a great point that sometimes people are looking for that, but also sometimes, depending on your job title, it can mean different things to different people. It can be confusing. So Greg has elected not to have a job title. He's in sales, and he doesn't have that here, but he could. But he says, helping solve the labor equation in a dynamic world. Okay, I'm going to go on and show you the about section. Then we're going to come back and we're going to analyze this together. This is his about section. He says it's time to change. You don't have to be stuck in the same cycle of hiring, training, and reducing your labor force to support your logistics, warehousing, or manufacturing operations. There is a better way. The variable platform connects businesses with operators to provide flexible, on-demand, and qualified workers to achieve your operational objectives. Reduced OT between 70 and 80%, reduced overall labor expenditures between 5 and 20%, reduce burnout for your most valuable FTEs, no cost to scale, no monthly fees or contracts. Let's work together to find a solution for your needs. The future of labor management is here today. Okay, there's so many things about this that are so good. And Greg shared he did it to do a total overhaul after our class last week. So what I'm going to do is I am going to give us just time for a few suggestions. And I'm going to go back to this and I'm going to make a suggestion and then I'm going to open up to the group. I'm going to allow 2 people to make additional suggestions. And again, Greg, we're recording this. We'll capture this for you to do later, but we're doing this for everyone's benefit. So you can be thinking about your profile and go, is what we're saying true for me as well? So one thing, Greg, I didn't know if this is possible, but I was going to suggest simply changing some words around under the company name in the banner. I think it would make more sense to say the on-demand or the on-demand marketplace for manufacturing, logistics, and warehouse labor. Like making labor an adjective before marketplace makes it sound like that's modifying marketplace, but really it's for labor. Like that's really part of a phrase of who sits in it. I didn't know if that is a company tagline decision or if you have the power to change that. I felt like that was a little bit confusing.
No, that's a great feedback. We're pretty flexible. It is a company tagline position, but we're really open to improvements. And so I'm definitely going to pass that up. Thank you so much.
Yeah, sure. So I don't know if anybody agrees with that. It's okay if you don't have to agree with me. But when I saw that, I thought, I feel like on-demand marketplace, a marketplace where you match people and things. So that's Airbnb, that's Uber. That term is becoming quite understood from a tech standpoint. But the fact that it's for labor, I don't know. I felt like that made a little bit more sense for that to come later to me. Let me take a couple of additional people. Who else has a suggestion / question about the header or banner here? Just unmute yourself because I can't see everybody. I'm trying to do my best to jump around. Who would like to make a contribution?
Catherine, it's Becky Myers.
Hi, Becky.
Hi. Do we want to include phone numbers here? I've wondered about that.
Great question. I mean, I do. And I think that, that also has to do with whether I guess, number one, do you have a Google number? Are you okay with the whole world having it? Some people it makes them nervous. Some people doesn't. I mean, it should be in your contact information either way. I receive a surprisingly low number of solicitations by phone. So I have my number out there. Like I just put it out there. I don't care. But like unless a company has a policy about that, I like that suggestion. Greg, do you all have a rule about that?
No, we're still sort of in startup phase. I think we're going to eventually get to some type of standardized format, but right now some folks, it's kind of all over the map. And so I chose not to do it for simple reason. One, just because I want to be selective on how I give it out in some ways. And two, I usually get solicitations through email or through a website.
Okay. Okay, great. And so the other thing some people do, of course, is they'll get a Google number. That's another possibility for those of you that want to have a number, but maybe don't want it to be your cell. Amir, thanks for raising your hand. What would you like to add?
I'd like to suggest that if you have flexibility, take the helping out. Be bold, just like Catherine is. Instead of saying solve, say solving the labor equation in a dynamic world. Because that's what you do. That's what you proclaim you're very good at.
Solving is stronger than helping. That's a great point. Yeah.
Yeah, I love it.
Thank you for that, Amir. That's great. Bill, you had something.
Yeah, the only thing I would do is make the name of your company a little bigger. It's hard to read when it's in the small part of LinkedIn, like in the beginning. When you blow it up and you can read it, but I would just like maybe bump that up about 10% in the graphics, if it's possible. If it's not, then it's no big deal. But
You're saying in the banner above?
The one that says variable.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
The word variable, because it's not it's a logo word. It's harder to read when it's smaller. It looks like Ariable when it's in the mini form. So that's literally my only suggestion.
That's great. That's great, Bill. So one more thing, Greg, I would suggest too, I'm not completely sure on labor equation. Like, I feel like equation is slightly buzzwordy. I don't know that I have a better suggestion at this moment, but I will continue to think about that. Does anybody have an alternative suggestion for Greg, starting with Amir's great point about just going ahead and solving for it?
Maybe environment instead of equation.
Solving the labor environment in a dynamic world.
Or simplifying the labor environment. I don't know.
I just kind of want it to say people somewhere. This is about people meeting technology. That's a thought that's going through my brain. So many things are really, really, really great about this. Okay, let's go on to about. So we have lots of time for other people's. So there are a few buzzwords in this, Greg. Like, I think OT means overtime, but you are making me think about that. So I might suggest you not make me think about that. I know FTE means full-time equivalent, but you're making me think about that. So I kind of don't want you to make me burn those brain calories. I really like the problem statement that you're offering to solve, that you don't have to be stuck in the same cycle. You're saying this is a really common issue, so you're in good company if that happens for you. I think that part's really strong. Let me take a couple of suggestions. What else would you all like to see based on? Remember, if you missed last week, you're noticing that what I'm all in on about Greg's about section is that this is not a summary of his resume down below. This is a sales page for him. This is equivalent to the website, because the idea is he's a salesperson. Someone's coming and saying, how can variable help me? And he's like, here's the problem we solve. I really, really like that you went all in on that part. Bill and Amir, you still have your hand raised. Do you mean that? No. Okay. Who wants to add to this?
So it's Becky. I have a question about, first off, those are all very good benefit-oriented statements in your bullets. And I wonder, are you solving any other specific problems that maybe no one else does?
So it's really, the focus of the platform is solving the variance with labor. And so what we're really focused on is, say, for example, I just closed with Red Bull. So say Red Bull has cases of damaged drinks that they need to repackage that they can sell. They have trucks waiting at the dock, which if they don't get those out in time, then, then one truck less is less revenue. So we're really focused on providing surge labor, flex labor, folks that are familiar with this type of work. And so we're really really focused on that narrow concentration. We're not getting too broad to solve anything else in terms of restaurants or sourcing. We're focused strictly on the labor in warehousing, manufacturing, and logistics. So I did struggle with that. Like, what else can I say? But we're really narrowly focused, and we're really laser focused on that issue.
So Amir, I'll get to you in just a second. Greg, I think because you have so much room with your header, I really like, you're going to see in a couple examples, Fred did a great job with this. You could put hashtags, and you could put hashtag surge labor, hashtag flex labor in your header.
I love all the ideas that everybody's been providing. I'm definitely going to use a lot of them. So thank you, everyone.
Yeah, Amir, go ahead.
I think in the about section, again, if you can be succinct with less words and mean, I think it will mean what you say. It exudes and conveys confidence. So in the first, you say, it's time to change. And then you say, you don't have to be stuck. What if you change it? I mean, two different flavors. Instead of saying you don't have to be stuck, what if you say you can stop being stuck in the same cycle, or we help you stop being stuck? Because you want to identify a pain point that is present. This does not convey to the reader that they have a pain. You want to convey to them that they are in pain, you know they're in pain, and you can help them get out of pain.
So your specific suggestion, Amir, for Greg later is to maybe combine the first two sentences and say you can, and jump into that.
Yes.
Yeah, Christian, go ahead. You're nodding.
I want to follow up to what Amir's saying, because I'm on his page. It's time to change. Get out of the same cycle of hiring, training, and reducing your labor.
Yeah, that's even stronger. That's great. Becky.
I would say escape the cycle of, or exit, not exit, but escape maybe.
Escape. That's a real active word. Yeah, that's great. Great suggestion. So I think we're taking, we're taking Greg from, B to A minus here, and just like with more practice. And that you all who were here last time heard me say, I'm messing with my profile and I'm changing it every couple of weeks. I mean, I'm constantly tweaking it. So it's a constant work in progress based on feedback. You want to ask people when they buy from you, hey, what did you like? Or why are you working with us? And you want to use the words they say. Okay, that's good. Those are good marketing practices. So we keep tweaking it. But great job. Thank you for volunteering. This is a great example of a tech platform, of someone who's an employee of a company. And Greg, really appreciate you being a volunteer. Thanks for that. Okay, next person. Thanks, Greg. Next person, Fred. You ready? I saw him come in. I'm looking for him. Fred, are you good? Can you speak?
I'm here.
Okay, good. Okay, super. Thanks for volunteering. So Fred Costa is a member of V5O, and so this is his own firm, so he can do whatever the heck he wants because it's his company. And so I think there's so many things that are really good about this header. So we've got cybersecurity, managed services, IT outsourcing, and disaster recovery planning. He is all over the hashtag. So that's what made me think about how Greg could use more of the character space he had, Greg Pizzozzi. And so we've got talks about NSCIT group. I don't know what that is, Fred, but I'm assuming the right people know. Cybersecurity, information security, disaster recovery planning, information technology. So my suggestion about this, the only thing that came to my mind, and then I'll open up to the group before we go to your about section, is that I'm constantly reminding myself what SME means. I know that sounds silly because I think you're saying small and medium-sized businesses, but then I get kind of wrapped around in my head, like, what's the E part? And I don't know, I struggle with it a little bit. And so
it's small, medium enterprise.
Yeah. So I just
open that up and just put it out there.
Let me ask the group. I mean, I don't mind being wrong.
That's my first thought too, Jill.
Really? Okay.
Yeah,
Jill,
and I'm in Fred's space, but that was my first thought too. SME, is he telling me enterprises or
Yeah.
small, medium? Yeah.
I didn't even know what it meant.
Okay.
Well, I'm in his space, so that's why I think I knew, but I too was like, it's just, I don't know.
Acronyms, if you don't know what they are, they're confusing.
Yeah,
Risky.
it's usually SMB, but you know,
That's still like, if you don't know what that is, like I always assume that you're talking to somebody from the 3rd grade.
Yeah, small to medium enterprises. You could just write it out, or small to medium companies.
I
Yeah,
will do that.
yeah,
Business.
thanks for that. Okay,
Business.
what else? Anybody else have a suggestion? Scrolling, looking. You guys good? Okay, let's keep going.
I raised my hand.
Oh, I'm sorry. Sorry, I didn't see. Oh, thanks, Amir. Go ahead.
I don't know what is the purpose of the word helping.
Oh, you're on
You
helping.
do
because
it.
Greg did that too, right?
You do it. So again, I mean, every time it's be bold. And say just.
So
just-
what word do you recommend?
None. This is what you offer. Say offering SMEs, serve, because you're offering these are all services that you offer.
Providing? Nothing?
I'm
Crickets.
thinking, this is my thinking face.
Okay.
I think, what if you just eliminated that helping SMEs with, because you are squeezing your target into the small, medium enterprise or small, medium businesses. So maybe at some point in time, you decide to grow a little bit larger. If the opportunity was there, I'm sure you would, and just say cybersecurity, managed services, and all those things, because all of your clients know those, those topics. That's what they need help with. So just be bold. This is what we do. You don't have to say anything. Just Fred Acosta.
Sorry, Amir. Sorry, go ahead.
That's it. I'm done.
Okay. Yeah. So what do you think? What do you think, Fred, about solving cybersecurity, managed services, IT outsourcing, and disaster recovery planning for small, medium enterprises?
Yeah, that works.
Yeah,
Just
that's better.
drag that at the end. So for SMEs written out, then it becomes a prepositional phrase, but you are the one who's solving.
Yep.
Okay, great. Let's keep going, to the interest of time. Okay, so this about section has you as more of a resume summary. So I wanted to ask you, are you liking this and you're doubling down on this?
No,
Or-
I didn't have time to fix it. That's the
Okay.
problem.
Okay, that's okay. So so this is an example, of, what I would call traditional about section. And so probably there's language on Fred's site about how he helps that he can just lift and put here. Okay. So Fred, we'll just do a part 2 on that. Like, I'll help you with that offline, but I appreciate you updating the front part and volunteering.
Perfect.
Okay, I'm gonna keep going because we've got lots of stuff to cover. Amanda made big changes. Okay, so thank you so much, Amanda, for volunteering. So she's got a pretty picture. She's got a bunch of words about insurance. You see, it's all about insurance. So we're providing education on supplemental benefits and insurance and business insurance, cancer, accident, heart attack, stroke, COVID, disability, dental, vision, life, helping small businesses and individuals through the insurance maze. Okay, you know what Amir is going to say about helping. We know this. My thought, Amanda, about this, I think this is, I actually really like, I understand that this is supplemental. So I understand that word's important because you sell Aflac, right? Is that right?
Correct.
Okay, and so that's important because we want people to understand that they want this insurance plus whatever else they have. That's a big part of the Aflac message. The part that is a little bit confusing to me still is that when you say providing education, like my mind goes to curriculum provider.
Gotcha.
and you're selling supplemental insurance. So what else would you all suggest, knowing this is her business? She is a salesperson and an owner of a practice that sells Aflac. So what else could she say? How else could she say it? Looking for volunteer.
Hi, Catherine. Hey, well, I was thinking that I don't know whether you need all the middle stuff at all, but maybe educating on, take out the providing education, just educating on, but have that secondarily. And oh, now I forget what I had for down below, because I had something like, let me rethink about that and get back.
Sure,
to
that's
it.
fine.
Can't think of that
And
wording.
you can use the chat on that, Kim, too. That's great. Bill, go ahead. What are you gonna say?
Well, something struck me that Amanda said during the meeting, which is every single person on this meeting is going to get cancer. Right? I mean, that's a pretty bold statement. All of this other stuff doesn't mean anything to me. What means anything to me is that at some point I'm going to have cancer, and can I pay for it? So, whether you live or you die, that's obviously up to the world, but whether you can pay for it or not, that's up to you. So, I have supplemental insurance. I see the value in it, accidental stuff. I mean, just insurance doesn't cover things the way it used to. Is there a way to craft this where it's more of a pain point than it is what you're selling, or you should just start with a statistic? I mean, my eyes woke up when you said that, like during the meeting the other day. So like that got my attention. Usually, people talk about insurance and my eyes glaze over. So, honestly, the other thing about insurance is anybody can sell insurance. It's how you interact with your clients when they need help. I have had many insurance brokers in my life. The ones that aren't worth a damn, or when they'll sell you a policy, and then when you call them when you have a problem, they don't give you the time of day. If you're there to support somebody and give them, guidance on how to get a claim through, those things are worth way more than, the policy, and that's how I choose insurance brokers, by how they interact with, on the follow through.
Okay, so Christian and Joe, just because I really want to end you guys on time, and I've got to get to my 3 E's that I'm going to teach you. I'm going to ask you to put your comments. I'm going to ask all of you to put your comments in the chat for Amanda. Okay. I'm sorry, because we could just do only live coaching, but I know you're really going to want me to get to the next section because we only have 2 more times after this. So please type your suggestions to her. Amanda, thanks so much for being a guinea pig.
And I did update a little bit on live to make some changes on that.
Oh, cool.
So thanks for the feedback.
Cool. Yeah. So you guys really please type, please be a friend, rewrite sections, help her out on that. And thank you. And I think her about is really great. You guys can all connect with her on LinkedIn and see it. She does talk about unexpected medical event. I think to Bill's point, Amanda, you could have a startling statistic in the about section, even more than an unexpected medical event. I mean, it could be like, this happens to everybody, at some point. So I'm going to keep going. Great job, all. I hope that taking out some weaker words, where to use statistics, watching out for acronyms, seeing models of using hashtags as another way to get some words in there. Those were all great examples that hopefully you all can take and bring into your own profile. So I'm going to keep going. Okay, this is the 15-minute version on what is a professional brand. And there are people, this is their whole job. They are experts on this. I feel like over time, I have figured out what my 3 E's are about my professional brand. And I'll show you in a minute what I mean about the 3 E's. But we could do an 8-week course and it would just be on professional branding. So this is a cursory note that is to give you a very basic foundation so that as we start to talk about what the heck do I post? If you don't post, people won't follow you. And if people don't follow you and like to follow your stuff and comment, then you can't use LinkedIn as a sales tool very well, because you can't incorporate in your sales sequence, which is the part I'm going to teach you last, because you don't have any followers to sell to. So we need each of these steps. First, a strong profile, then a little bit of clarity around our professional brand, and then we start to think about the content we share, and then we think about our process. So that's where this train is going. If you are not muted, would you mute? I'm hearing just a little bit of background noise, so that'd be great. And then I'll open you up for discussion questions in a minute. Okay, so what is a professional brand? When I'm saying this word, I'm thinking primarily of the content of what you share and the images that you share. I'm not saying that's everything that makes up a professional brand, but it is a significant portion of what makes up a professional brand. And so the words I say or the things I choose to reshare that other people post, as well as my photo, my banner, and then if I'm doing graphics of images of things I share that are part of my daily or regular posts, what does that look like? Does it have some uniformity? Does it have a certain personality to it? I have a friend who's a sales trainer, and he has a whole series that's an animated drawing series, and it's done very beautifully. It's kind of almost like it's almost like a graphic novel, and he always presents information in that way. It's just something he's chosen to do. So he's given a lot of thought to what is the consistent way that this information can look. So there's a lot, there's a lot to cover about this. I'm going to cover three things that this has been a very helpful paradigm for me. Okay, remember, we're on LinkedIn because we want to influence our prospects and clients. We're using this as a tool to get more business and connect with people and build community. Okay, and so one of the ways we do that is through what my friend Mark Hodgson, he is a branding consultant. He's a marketing consultant, specializes in helping people with their professional brand. And he talks about what's called the 3 E's. When I think about how I want to be seen digitally out to the world, I'm thinking about my experience I bring to the table. I'm thinking about my expertise that I have developed over time, which is not necessarily the same as my exact resume. So he differentiates between experience and expertise. And then, so maybe expertise is more like my specific set of skills, right? This is Liam Neeson's specific set of skills, right? Like that, what do I know how to do that has become my specialty? And then essence is kind of like, who am I? This allows for a little bit more about my values or even personal interests. If you look at posts, you're going to see, once I show you these 3 E's, you're going to see they always fall in one of these 3 buckets. And some overlap. It's like a Venn diagram where something you share will fall on one or the other. But this is such a helpful framework for me to think about, because then I'm thinking, am I sharing about something that is an area of deep knowledge for me because I've cultivated that information over time? Is this something about my values? So I want that to come forth with essence. Or is this something I'm drawing on and I'm referencing my authority and sort of years of experience in something? Let me pause and ask, Jake has done a little bit of teaching around this, Jake, or maybe a lot of teaching around this. He and I had an offline conversation. Is there anything else you want to say here, Jake, about professional brand before I start to show some examples of posts to get people to think about which E the things fall into?
I think the biggest thing is consistency, color consistency, image consistency, voice consistency. It all comes to how you're presenting yourself, and that's what that branding is. You want to make sure that it's the same, whether it's all on LinkedIn or whether it's your website in LinkedIn. I find a lot of people that I work with, they do something in one spot, it looks good there, but they don't translate that to other places. So for example, they'll have a beautiful website, but when they get on LinkedIn, they're not using some of the same imagery. They're not using some of the same voice that they have on the website on LinkedIn. And so there's a disconnect between their website and their LinkedIn. So I mean, this whole thing about the 3 E's is excellent. It's a great way to really think about how you're presenting yourself. but you want to make sure that that's consistent. Consistency is probably the number one word I use a ton when I'm talking to people about branding.
That's really helpful. So a simple example about that, Jake, is I already had from 3 years ago when I did some rebranding for my sales training firm, Extra Bold Sales, I picked this plum color, plum and white. I actually have a color palette. I used a designer and they said, here are your primary colors. Here's the kind of font you're going to use. If you compare all my PowerPoints, they have the same type style because I have templates I've created so that I have a uniform thing that I go to over and over again. And I had some of that created for me. Well, then I came out with this book and I didn't want the book to be plum, but a lot of sales books are red. Okay, I don't know why, but if you go look at like the Amazon bestseller sales books, they're all red and white. So I was like, oh, I want people to think this is a bestseller type of book, but I can't use red because I don't like the way the red looks with the plum. So I went for the next thing I could think of, which would be pretty simple, strong color. And all I did on the book was blue and white. I picked that on purpose because blue had been a complementary color in that original palette from a few years ago to the plum. And I just like went all in on the navy. So now I'm regularly using navy, white, and plum, integrating the book, which came later, which when I did the plum, I had no vision for the book. Okay, so I had to incorporate that later, but I did give some thought to, you're going to see lots of images over and over. What's going to match? Like it was just like as basic a thought as that. I'm not a super experienced graphics person, but this was going through my head.
Yeah, it's really interesting. It's interesting that that color was still part of your palette early on. And so you didn't really defer too much from your original palette. You still had that mindset of, okay, this is a complementary color, so that will work. So that shows that even then, even though you kind of went away from what your normal colors were, you still were thinking about how does it relate back to my original colors and my original palette. And that's super smart. And believe me, I understand what you're saying. It seems like certain industries absolutely love certain colors, and it dilutes their advertising. It dilutes their message because it looks the same as everybody else. So it's really cool that you were thinking about that when you were thinking about your cover design.
Thanks. So, so a couple things else I want to say about this. Those of you that follow me closely might have noticed. Some of you might follow me closely and not have noticed. When I did the photo shoot of the photos I'm sharing now that I did for the book, I only bought 7 photos to start with, because by the time I paid for the shoot and paid for the photos, that's all the money I wanted to spend, just to be perfectly frank. So you see me use the same photos over and over and over again. And every time I use them, different people say, hey, that's a great photo. Like they didn't see the other 50 times I used it. I mean, it's just remarkable. So no one's paying that much of attention. They're not noticing the repetition. Repetition's not bad. Repetition is an exercise in marketing. And I don't want you to feel overwhelmed and think, oh my gosh, I've got to get colors and I've got to have all these photos. You probably need 4 photos that you recycle over and over. And that's only if you want to have a picture of yourself in the post. So I really want to make this streamlined and not feel too difficult for you. It doesn't have to be overwhelming, but some consistency does help. Now I'm going to share, let me watch my time. Okay, we're bucking up against time. I'm going to show you a couple of examples of how the expertise, experience, and essence come out. And your assignment for this week, okay, and I'm really going to ask you to do this. Your assignment for this week is to watch other people thinking about this experience, expertise, and essence, watch their posts and figure out which bucket their post is going into. Do they lean more toward talking about their experience? Do they lean more toward talking about their expertise? Or are they leaning more toward essence? Let me show you an example of what this might look like. Okay, so under experience, these are all posts I've done in the last 2 months. Okay, so let me just read you a few. So I'm reading left to right. So I'm starting out saying, isn't it wonderful when for-profit businesses work alongside nonprofits for the good of their community? Thank you, Stitch Ministries, for having me speak about how to talk to donors. You're putting on a great conference, Ashley Gordon and team. I'm speaking here about how people want to become better versions of themselves, blah, 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 blah. Okay, so I want you to know experientially, I want you to know I'm an experienced speaker. I'm posting from the conference. I'm tagging the person who was the coordinator. I'm making her look good. I'm tagging my fellow speakers. That's who else is in blue on this bottom left. I'm talking about experience. Another one came up recently. My friend Neil Prasad gave this great post earlier today about how you show extra value. By the way, you should follow him if you're in B2B sales because he is a thought leader. Okay, that was super nice of me to tell all my followers to follow him, but he's a great guy, so I did that. One way that these people, these are moderators on Clubhouse with me, one of the ways we've been sharing resources with the B2B sales world is through our regular posts about how to sell on our shared site, b2bsalesmagic.com. For 9 months, we have been pouring into the site and we have everything from this to this to this to this to list, and the list goes on. Then I tagged more people who I know from Clubhouse who have followers, so they would all go to the site. Okay, that's an example that falls under experience. I'm going to keep going here, showing you expertise. All right, I'm referencing that I have a lot of experience as a recruiter. So I say, don't start your weekend yet. Today can be your best sales day of the week. Prospect, follow up, don't give up. Why? Because it's follow up Friday. When I was a recruiter, Friday afternoons were the times that my prospects made time for my calls. These folks are looking forward to the weekend too, friends. If you do your outstanding revenue generating activities and don't give up, you'll be rewarded. So I'm drawing on, I have a lot of expertise prospecting and I have spent many Fridays making sales calls. So this post is to encourage people. I'm drawing on what I know because of my expertise. Now, I think these are somewhat interchangeable. Like some things that I'm showing as experience also could fall under expertise. I think it's, I think that that's flexible, but I want you to see an example where I'm not saying, hey, I've been doing this 25 years. I'm not always tying you back to my resume, but I can't make a post like this, speaking with authority, if I didn't know something about it. Okay, so those are examples of what falls under that. Let me show you an essence post. An essence is this idea of sort of who is Catherine. So I like to write a lot about empathy and a lot about emotional intelligence in selling. It's part of what I want you to know about my professional brand. So I say great relationships require empathy. This article was a helpful way for me to start my day to remember what my fellow good humans are going through right now. I hope it helps you too. You want to know if you have empathy? How do you feel if I tell you that 53% of people polled said they're sad right now? 53%, that's terrible. This is a real article I posted just the other day. I hope this information stimulates my fellow leaders and sales professionals to consider how to include empathy in their communications today. Y'all, this was a Forbes article. This was not my article. But I thought it was so awesome. I shared it and I said, I want to be affiliated with this article. I want you to know that I think empathy in sales matters. So it's coming out of who I am as a person and my professional brand, how I want you to think of me. And so that's why I reposted that and shared that. And that's a little bit of a peek about who I am. So that's an example of an essence post. Okay, I'm watching the time. Let me show you a couple of things and then I'm going to stop our recording and then I'm going to stick around for people who can stay longer, but I don't want to get in trouble by going way over because I just wish we had 30 more minutes. I love this topic. Okay, let me show you because I will stick around for questions. Next time, we're going to talk more about how you create a grid and decide what the heck to post if you are not a very regular poster. I'm going to help you think about themes. Think about how to reference experience, expertise, and your essence so that consistency of that brand starts to come across so that then this can become a sales tool for you. I have a couple things I want you to know about. If this idea of a professional brand to you is totally Greek, if it's super confusing, then I want you to see this bit.ly link, this Think, Do, Be More. This is my friend Mark's course. I am an affiliate of the course. If you buy this course, then I am compensated from it. So I want that to be out there for full disclosure. But I took this course because I just think he's a professional marketing genius. And I've used a lot of what he's taught me in my own techniques. So if this topic is difficult for you or my posts aren't making sense based on the 3 E's, ask me about this, grab the link, think about taking his class. Okay, that is something I want you to know about. We will be here again next week. Don't forget you have to re-register. And I want you to watch other people's posts and think, are they leaning heavy on empathy, experience, or their essence? And I will give, I don't know what I'm going to do, but I'll do something really nice for people who send me examples. You can share from LinkedIn and forward to me in direct email. You could say, hey, is this an example of this or that? I'll do some kind of cool giveaway for anybody who gives me fodder for examples next week, building on this, if you train yourself to watch for that. Okay. So let me, Jake, I think let's pause. I mean, let's go ahead and stop the recording so it ends at an hour.